Imagine sitting around the table with Jesus and his disciples listening as James and John quibble over which of them is the greatest.
Try to visualize the expression on their faces as they watch Jesus take off his robe, wrap a towel around his waist, pick up a basin of water, and stoop down to wash their dirty feet.
How would you respond? Would you be stunned, confused? Or, like Peter, would you stand up and protest, saying, "No, Lord, you'll never wash my feet," only to hear Jesus quietly reply, "If I don't wash your feet, you have no part of me."
The point Jesus was trying to make was that cleansing is essential to a relationship with Him. Only Jesus can wash away the layers of guilt and shame that build up when we live our lives focused on ourselves rather than on Him.
Think about the roads of regret you have traveled, the guilt and shame of things you did or maybe should have done. Now remember Jesus' words. If I don't wash you, you can have no part of me.
A handful of coins was all it took to sell out Jesus. A pathetic, degrading 30 coins. The price paid for a common slave. The kind of slave that might wash your feet when you enter a friend's home.
Throughout history, Judas has been labeled a traitor, and there's no doubt he sold out Jesus for pocket change. But if we're really honest with ourselves, haven't we all sold out Jesus at one time or another?
Judas betrayed Jesus in a garden with a kiss. We would never do something so low to someone we love.
Have you ever worshiped Jesus on a Sunday, only to sell Him out later in the week?
Truth is, every time we sin, we're selling out Jesus. Every time we put our plans ahead of his plans for us, we drive a wedge of separation into the heart of our relationship with him.
Scriptures tell us Jesus and his disciples often visited a garden called Gethsemane. So his request to come with him to the garden to pray after dinner was not unusual. But this visit to the familiar garden would be radically different than any other gathering. Tonight they would experience Jesus in a way they had never seen before.
This was Jesus, who walked on water, who restored sight to the blind, cast out demons, and called a dead Lazarus back to life. But now, he's lying face down in the dirt, sweating drops of blood, and pleading with God for a different way out.
Have you ever wondered why Jesus was so afraid? I mean, he knew the plan. He'd been telling his disciples for days exactly how it would happen. So why the bloody sweat? Why the fist pounding and pleading?
Could it be that Jesus was overwhelmed at bearing the full weight of God's wrath?
Or could it be that Jesus knew, better than we do, the evil grip and eternal consequences of sin? Walk into any church and you're bound to see a cross. Some are big, bronze, and shiny. Others are simple and understated. No matter how pretty or plain, they're all visual reminders of Jesus' death.
A death that included being whipped and stripped, beaten beyond recognition, and having his arms and legs pulled out of joint and pounded in place on a criminal's cross.
The fact is, no matter what cultures or traditions claim, we can't blame Pontius Pilate, the Pharisees, or the Romans for Jesus' brutal death. Jesus hung on that cross for two reasons: because of God's great love for us and because of our sin against him.
For God so loved the world
That he gave his one and only Son.
so that whoever believes in him shall not perish.
But have eternal life.
For God did not send his Son to condemn the world, but to save people.
Like me.
like me.
Like me.
Like me.